All right, cool. So what we're now going to do is make it so that when you go to this page right here, it's going to change the status, okay? And then on the table, we're going to do something with the status. But for now, if I change it, when I come back to that table, you'll never know that I made any changes because we're not displaying the status in that table. So I'm going to go ahead and wire it up. Even though all of them are going to have the status of 1, I'm going to wire it up so that the status actually means something. So for our purposes, this is not how I'd ultimately want it to work in the app, but for our purposes, I'm going to make another label. And to make it visually different, because I know it's kind of a temporary thing, I'm going to throw it over here on the right-hand side. And that's going to be when I'm going to put the status. And in order to use that, I have to do a couple different things. So the first thing I have to do is in my custom cell, I need to make a connection. So drag this over. And I'll call it the status. And so now there's a label called the status that I can mess with. And I'll close this. And specifically how I'm going to mess with it is down here in when I generate each row. And so I'm going to just take the exact same code I used for line 36. Only instead of displaying priority, I'm going to copy and paste it and use it to display the status. And then I'm going to test it. And it works because every single one of them, their status is set to 1. Because you remember when I make a new task, I set status to 1. So just the very fact that I see 1 instead of the word status over here tells me that I'm on the right path. Okay, cool, makes sense? Sweet, okay. So now let's go into our detail view, which if you'll recall, that's this one. And I'm going to make it when you tap on complete task, it behind the scenes switches the status from 1 to 0. And so then when you come back to the table view, that little 1s over there will swap into zeros. So that button is right here. And I'm just going to test it because I am nervous and always am nervous. And so I'm going to just have it simply print what the current status of the current task is. So what I want to do is print all tasks. And the good news is that that little weird, or the little index that I'm getting that's getting passed through the segue is still available inside of this button. So task index is still set. So I can use it to look it up still. So I'm just going to print the status when you hit the button. So I'm hitting the third thing down, so this should be, and you can see status is set to 1. So I'm going to brush teeth. If I hit complete task, this should say 1 down here. Okay, cool. That's not what I want. I want 1 to change into 0. So I'm going to take this print, and I'm going to change it. So now the status is 0. And then I'm going to test it. And so now that little console shouldn't say 1 when after I've tapped on the button. It should say 0. Yay, that's awesome. Okay, here's the downside. So far, all I've done is change my copy of all tasks that's sitting over into detail. All I've done is change one element inside of my copy. In order to use it elsewhere, I have to take my copy and override the local storage with my copy. That's easy. We've done that before. Okay, so I know how to do that. That is sitting over there in this page, which is the make the new task, which weirdly was the first thing that we made in this project. And so it's still called UController. Not very well named, but I have right here underneath the Save New Task button, I have the code to save it. It's right there. So I'm going to copy it, go back to this right here, which is the detail view, and paste it into the complete task button. So now what it's doing is taking the individual tasks that we're on. That's this part of line 26, is taking the individual tasks that we're on and changing its status to 0. And then line 28, it's printing that new status, which is 0, and then it's saving the entire array of all the tasks, including the thing that has 0, back into storage. And so now it should work. So complete task is set to 0 for the word default. When I go back, you can see now the status is 0. Okay? Sweet. We got it done, right? There's nothing more to do. This is a great to-do list, right? Well, not quite. There's all the, this is kind of ugly. So we gotta do some other styling, like don't display the thing if it's 0, or display it with lines over to gray it out, all that kind of stuff. And that's honestly, that's like just custom layers on top of the underlying code that we've done before. That's kind of the cakewalk. It's kind of easy to do that. So we'll get to that, but for now, does this all make sense, everybody? Any questions? We good? We good? Yeah. Can I get thumbs up? Let's see, Slum Jerry. I totally get it. I'm a little lost. I might as well not even come to class. I'm so lost. Okay, where are you at? Okay, kind of in the middle. Sweet.
But you're gonna post this.
Gonna totally post it.
Right? Okay.
So I'm gonna finish recording. I'm gonna post all this stuff to Canvas, and then we'll take like the rest of the class to make sure that you're all kind of in that space and you get it and it's all working for you. Make sense? Cool. And then we can talk about customizing this and all that kind of jazz next week. It's not that huge a deal. That's relatively easy. That won't be me presenting. It'll be more like if you want to use this code and run with it for your project, how you want the finished thing might need to show up different than the next person. Okay? But this is the basic idea of the same stuff. And it's the same thing we've been doing. The only new stuff is now we're working with local storage. So it's still passing segues just like we do with the Pokemon thing. Today we added new custom cells. That's awesome. But it's not that hard, right? So it's all basically the same stuff, just reconfigured and used differently. All right? Any questions? Sweet. Cool.